educator, working with the youth in the public school system as well as a volunteer basis. Dynamic writer, dynamic person. She's about to come up here and do her thing. So what I need you to do is to start picking up the energy as we welcome to the mic, Ms. Verandah-Maureen Shepard. You keep clapping till she gets up here.
Yes.
Go Envy. Go Envy.
He told me that it wasn't necessary to eat that. But he meant that I was pushing it. He meant that I wasn't fit, that I wasn't lean, and that dating me was a kindness. And he didn't find this to be hurtful or upsetting or damaging. He didn't know that I would go on managing my weight as if it were a prize fighter that needed representation. He hurled the insult at me the way I wanted to my food in hopes I'd be beautiful enough for him. Beautiful enough and thin, beautiful enough within did not satiate his appetite. And though I had the right to be upset and indignant, I said nothing contingent upon breaking up, but my heart was already broken up. What else was there to do? I allowed this man to tell me absolutely who I was, none of which suggested I could be attractive despite my size. I had eyes bigger than my heart that just couldn't digest what was being fed to me. In my head, he said he didn't want me. Out loud, he was saying he was lovingly protecting me, lovingly preventing me from further tipping the scales. In my head, he didn't want me as I was. Out loud, he was standing just because he felt his ground more fertile than my own, so he told me it wasn't necessary to eat that. But he meant that I should go screaming for the hills, that I deserved better than the stills he had in his head of me in the shape and form of someone else. How you doing, New York City? It's so wonderful to be here. The name of that piece was called What Was Said and Meant. So often people say things out loud, but really you know that's not what they mean. So that's dealing back old past relationship in the mall, and I got hungry. And then, shopping requires energy. But he was like, "You sure you want?" And I'm just like, all right, whatever. Take me 3 years to process that. So, yeah. On that same note, this next piece is called Remember You, because then we get over that past situation and we're tempted to fall for the next one. Sometimes I have these internal conversations like, remember the last time you decided to do that? So this next piece is called Remember You, a newbie on this list, as was the old one.
Yeah, you did. Go Envy.
Remember the time you confused a lesson for a soulmate. You were so in love. And because souls in love see nothing put before them potentially damning. Souls in love are perpetually planning forevers with no guarantee of tomorrow. They borrow from eternity as if it were an account to be drawn on. And when the funds are long gone, the time spent becomes taxing. Remember the time you spent asking God to make blessings a mess. You were so naive because you just could not see being possibly happier than you were then and there, in that time or wherever it was that you'd later be going. Remember the time you went forward with knowing failure was imminent? You were so naive because you just could not see anyone else possibly loving you for any other reason beyond what you could comprehend. But then again, you didn't fully believe that he was being sincere in any of what was said to you. Do you remember you? Seconds after the blow, minutes after the slow realization that he wasn't coming back to you. And do you remember you? Days after the exchanges, weeks after relations better spent just sleeping, better spent just keeping wholeness close to you. And do you remember you? Months after the I love yous, years after the how come yous, you were so used to considering. And do you remember you? Literally, dead and dying and trying to make sense of your condition because you refuse to see the lesson in your soulmate. Having dealt with all of that, there are a lot of 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 8 a.m. mornings that you have sometimes. So, more internal dialogue, internal conversation. This is called Just How Exactly. How exactly am I supposed to be great when I've got this mile-long list of insecurities that I hate that equally conspire against me? How exactly am I supposed to be sexy when the only thing my male friends see is their cute pretend sister they can't be attracted to? How exactly am I supposed to be beautiful in a world so full of hideousness, where self-pity is it and mirrors are filled with smoke and flame? How exactly am I supposed to live up to my name when living up to tomorrow is not even promised? And how exactly do I keep being honest when there are so many facades available for purchase? How exactly do I avoid being hurt just for kicks? Can someone tell me how to do all this, possibly before dawn? So here's another newbie. It's called Mirror Mirror, and it's a rant. I spend a lot of time whining, complaining, and ranting in my poetry. But
I got you, girl.
the stage is a hospital. People come here to be healed. You often find a lot of broken people on stage. This is called Mirror Mirror, and it's another newbie. So here we go. It actually started out as being an unfinished piece, and I left it unfinished. So I think it sounds better unfinished. I'm sick of looking in the mirror and seeing the reflection of society and all that it's done to me. The Bible tells me that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, but the same can't be said of the facades I don occasionally. Maybe it's Maybelline that revel on how girls cover all their giving. Maybe some corporations are completely driven on self-loathing and low self-esteem. Maybe it means we pay people to convince us that we're ugly. I'm sick of looking in the mirror and seeing something that I see on neighborhoods full of other women. Maybe it's the cotton polyester blended linen that has me feeling that I'd rather live naked than to walk emblazoned across my chest a brand name that isn't my own. If Tommy Hilfiger really was for me, his L's would go up to at least 3 comfortably wherever he was selling. I'm sick of looking in the mirror and telling myself what I don't look like and that it won't feel right to open up and be seen. Maybe it's between being told what I can't do and what I shouldn't. Maybe it's the fear of having to say that I couldn't that keeps me from stepping out and stepping on. I'm sick of looking in the mirror and realizing the genocide of my people by way of what's fashionable and socially acceptable. Maybe it's the equitable gains made by a fair few that convince me the rich are getting richer because the poor keep trying to be. The irony. The epidemic of a people so infamously known for living beyond their means. It seems as if the pattern is generational, and I'm sick. So, do we have any biracial mixed people out here? Only one? Okay. Well, you all are. I'll tell you why. This piece is called Black Sheep, a whiny history lesson. Cue the predictable. Cue the, what are you? Are you biracial? What are your people? I'm too uncomfortable to ask my real questions like, why do you act so white? Why by sight don't you match the normal conventions, the stereotypical connections made when I see you? Oh, you must be the black sheep of your people. No pun intended. No, I'm not offended, I'm just really worried. And I find it funny that things have been assigned a race, a man-made falsity in the first place. But my friends identify the white music from the black. The right attitudes from those that epitomize color. It's sadly just another way to further perpetuate an issue, to further classify a people whom all came from the same place, whom all at some point had the same face until migratory factors kicked in. Before noted differences in skin and in phenotype, yeah, that's right. Snow bunnies weren't always white. They just stayed long enough away from the sun. And only then did they become pearl beauties. I don't know what it means to talk black. I just know that conversate ain't a word. Yet artists have the audacity, the nerve to put it in song. Great, now the whole world can sing along to what they think is black vernacular. That's just spectacular, more global citizens to correct along the way. And can someone please explain the difference between the letter A and the letter R? Apparently, A is for affection, R suggests we've come far. You get it, my niggar, the new way to be pleasantly oppressive. I'm not a sellout because I value the promise of a good education. I'm a sellout if I buy into my people's damnation, and I'll be a monkey's uncle if my kids won't know that. I don't know what it means to look black. I just know that I don't resemble that of an Oreo. Can you dip me in milk and eat me? No. Get your minds out of the gutter. Wrap it around me being just another female to be respected, another sister to be protected. Those are my reparations right there. And in case I wasn't clear, don't ask me what I am. The who is more important. The question will only shorten my patience and increase my sarcasm, because there are people and you can ask them the kinds of things I've said when asked, hey, what are you? Human. Looking through some pictures, check the date this morning. On September 5th of 2012, I had my first feature for the Inspired Word. And this next piece is called Ugly, and it was pretty much the piece that I went around touring with the first time and performing, and it's a signature. It's in the book. It's in Read Me, the first book. So. Yeah. This is called Ugly. I usually don't tell people what ugly stands for, but it stands for you gotta love yourself. Yeah, I know, right?
I love this one. It's my favorite.
She didn't eat though she hungered. She wondered if there would be one to love her and her cream filling, not her cream spilling from her lips. Cream devoured by her lips, contributing to waist, to hips, to shame. She didn't eat because she claimed she was always full. Steady feasting on a diet of magazines she'd always pull from far too high, she'd sit and visually eat and wonder why the fragrant samples just weren't enough. And as if that weren't enough, she was told, ugly. Not being the superficial kind of lovely, she misunderstood it and ran. She soon couldn't stand the sight of her own reflection, body shape, complexion, and even food for thought sat heavy on her hips. From her lips and over anxious fingertips, people knew the ways in which she lacked appreciation for self. So wealth just wasn't in her world. It wasn't in the curl of her hair she'd seen those other girls do, thinking if it works for them, it'll work for me too. No, it wasn't in that. In fact, it wasn't in the skin whiteners, nor the teeth brighteners. It wasn't in the partial starvation to make her poundage like her, as in her on the TV, or her on the magazine. It wasn't in between the beds of men she'd see every then and again. It wasn't in the 10 idols she made supplications unto. She was told ugly, and then went through proverbial hell and high water. The call for her to think otherwise was well overdue. She was told, you gotta love yourself. And suddenly, wealth was in her world. Every negative word and contrary belief to her being fearfully and wonderfully made. Every called out name that wasn't hers she well ignored. But not yet before, someone told her, ugly. And then I'm out of your way. Any educators in the house? Educators? Okay, so usually you find that when you are an artist and you have a job, you're still somehow broke. I've learned recently to stop saying things like starving artist, because what you say you will have.
Yes!
And I haven't starved a day in my life. So I'm not trying to be a starving artist. But it's difficult to have a job and to pursue your passion and not know which way to go sometimes, especially with education. In education, you're really not paid what you should be paid. Those of us that know. So the battle for me in every season is just like, maybe I should have been an econ major so I can be on Wall Street making 6 figures but be miserable. So it's a real toss-up, and you gotta go with what you know. So this is called Common Sense or Sense, and this is for the educators. Dead presidents for dead presidents. Too bad teaching barely gets my own ambitions fed. Maybe I should grow up and get a real job instead. Get a real job I dread waltzing into 5 days out of 7, 5 minutes to 7. Once, when I was 11, someone asked me if I considered teaching, and I had to ask myself, was it to me they were speaking? Because I said never, never in my life. And the extent to which I was not right is shamefully humorous. I swallowed pride excessively, hubris, and aspired to teach. I wish I were anorexic. Because see, I don't think the world gets it. We need teachers. We need educational preachers to be paid the common sense to their sense. We should revere anyone who gets why a child needs knowledge. Teach them that college, college, is not just a 7-figure privilege. I wish I were believing. Because see, no one's really getting it. The success of society is contingent upon the teachers we're hiring. Yet my current anxiety lies with the teachers we're firing, yet we're desiring for the smarts of the world to outbeat our phones. Put an android in a New York City high school student in a room alone and see who properly uses the words 2, 2, and 2. If our leaders only knew how important educational spending really was. Yet I teach. And surely not because of what it pays. I teach for the manifestation of ways a child can prove your own greatness, but let's face it, greatness can't pay bills. So, dead presidents for a job that somewhat kills my own desire to advance humanity, or dead presidents for real ones and have a family who starves. In math class, they never say it's this hard to work out equations in the real world. Take it full circle. How many of you guys have ever dated an artist? Like anyone of like the creative persuasion? Mike is raising his hand. Okay, so this is really quick. It's called dating an artist. I hope you guys feel it. He told me he felt I was more in love with my poetry than I was in love with him. He said he noticed the way my lips took extra care to frame and wrap themselves around every word, and that when it came to him, he felt like the mistress. He said he couldn't understand how it was I could love something without a heartbeat so deeply. How I could give it my all so easy, and when it came to him, be given the bare minimum. He said he couldn't imagine how I could tell my poetry everything and not trust him with anything. He felt slighted. He said he couldn't be all right with me staying out late nights performing, or with me occasionally ignoring his phone calls. He called me the girl who pours all her love into something that can't love her back. He told me that. So you know what I said? Nothing. Thank you guys so much. You've been awesome.
You said a whole lot more than nothing. You just been exposed to the poetry of Verandah-Maureen Shepard. Give us some more love.